Today we're here with Jonathan Winsby and Kaylee Harwood of Camelot. Now, your characters, as I said, are Guenevere and Lancelot. Can you tell me a little bit about them? Who are they?
Well, Guenevere first enters the story as a young princess who has been told she's going to marry the King of England. And she is resentful and frightened of this, that her youth is now a thing of the past. Mm-hmm. And so she enters the story in this frightened state, and soon is swept off her feet and is absolutely charmed and in love with King Arthur. So I think she is young, somewhat naive, but not in the negative sense. I think just idealistic about what life is supposed to be, and why can't it be everything I always imagined it would be.
How about Lancelot?
Similarly, you say arc and maturity. It's definitely his progression through the show as well. I start off as a young man who has never failed at anything he's done. He's successful in every endeavor. He believes that he is truly close to God or a higher power. And it's a way of thinking that's not necessarily social. It's not a very social way of being, but that's not necessarily something he cares about until he actually meets Guenevere. And he meets someone who means more to him than what he thought the idealistic way of living was. And so his entire journey really is about balancing the higher power with the powers that he finds on Earth. Mm-hmm. So.
In this particular story, both characters are very invested in Arthur and in his dream, and they work very closely together, don't they?
Oh, it's a true love triangle. Yeah. The love seems to not be able to exist without the third part. If one was removed, it would damage the other part of the triangle. Mm-hmm. So all three of the characters are completely wrapped up in each other and in love with each other.
Arthur speaks pretty much in his big speech that ends Act 1. He sort of speaks of how the triangle, it exists the way it is, and he can't really do anything about it, because to do something about it would ruin the ideal that he has set upon the story himself with his round table and all that entails. So it's a very interesting take on how we cannot exist without the other two people in the triangle.
What are those ideas? What is that ideal of Camelot, and why do you think these two invest in it so deeply?
It's a shift from power being used solely for gain to power being used for what is right, and what a civilization. Chivalry is a big term used a lot, and how we can all attain a higher standing in life strictly by being proper. He wants to use the power that he can attain as being the King of England to make everyone's life worth living, not just so he can go conquer more and he can be more powerful. That kind of thinking is what instantly draws me to the idea, draws Lancelot to the idea. It makes me travel from France back in those days all the way over to England in order to make sure that I'm a part of it, because that is indeed what I think life should be more like. We are there working for everyone, not just for ourselves. Honor, chivalry, integrity are the things that he really wants to work on, and Arthur comes up with that idea, using the might of the knight for right, as opposed to just using it for their own personal gain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's an oligarchical establishment in England at the time of this story, in which the king has the divine right to be in power, and previous to that, kings may or may not have used that power for just their own gain. So I think it's a very topical subject still today, even to be discussing. Yes. When you have the power, how ought you to use it? And Arthur truly believes, Guenevere and Lancelot back it as well, that it is to be used for the greater good.
Gary, he strived to make sure that this story was one that everyone could relate to, and not simply on a level of, oh look, there's a romance. He wanted every single character, especially in the triangle, to be fleshed out in ways that could make an audience understand the trials of such an undertaking, and yet the joys that come from it as well. By being as truthful as we can possibly be, especially the three characters, the three in the triangle, you see a story that's a lot more interesting than perhaps other productions have been in the past, where they just relied on the story.